What is countertransference? Well, one of my morning chat people asked me to talk about this, and so here I am making this video. Pardon the rollers, I'm getting ready for a party. Anyway, so today at queenbeing.com we're going to talk about what countertransference is, what it looks like. I'm going to show you an example from pop culture and explain how it relates to you as a survivor of narcissistic abuse. So let's get started. My name is Angie Atkinson, and on this channel I offer free daily video coaching to help you discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. I like to call it toxic relationship rehab. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button and we'll just get going. Now, since the morning chat participant did not give me a specific topic focus on this, I'm just going to start with a real general overview. But if you want more information about this or need additional information after you watch this video, let me know in the comments section below. So countertransference occurs when a therapist literally transfers emotions to the person in therapy. So what it means is it's how they feel about that person. It's a reaction to transference, which is where the person in treatment redirects their feelings for other people onto the therapist. So the concept was developed originally by Sigmund Freud, who described it as a largely unconscious phenomenon in which the psychologist's emotions are influenced by a person in therapy, and then they react with countertransference. So people like Carl Jung faced their own struggle with this as well, apparently, and characterized it as potentially problematic, and that it could inhibit psychological treatment if left unchecked. So what that means is that therapists have to master the ability to sort of participate in this by developing healthy boundaries for themselves and being really mindful of what threats are posed by this issue, this countertransference issue, both to the therapy relationship as well, as their work with people seeking treatment. So in contemporary psychology then, well, most clinicians will make a distinction between the helpful and the unhelpful sort of countertransference. A lot of psychologists will openly share their own feelings with the people they're treating, and this might be countertransference in a conscious manner, because this helps them to understand the differences between their own experiences as well as the experiences of someone in therapy. So that's the basic definition. It can become harmful when the therapist transfers their feelings to a person in treatment when they're misplaced feelings, or the therapist uses a person in therapy to meet their own psychological needs. I think a perfect example of this is the relationship between Tony Soprano and his therapist, where he clearly transfers his feelings for maybe his wife, occasionally his mother, and lots of other people onto her, and she obviously responds. Even though she tries to remain professional, you can see from very early in the relationship that they have in fact developed a certain amount of personal affection for one another. So you see the transference from Tony to the therapist, and then you see the countertransference where she allows him to kiss her, allows him to become involved with her in inappropriate ways. You see this continue as Tony begins to have inappropriate dreams about her, and then in some cases they even get involved with each other in public and things like that. So this is a really good and bad example at the same time. There are two different ways that this could manifest. For example, in the case of a therapist who has been through narcissistic abuse, they might be better suited at empathizing with a person who has also been through narcissistic abuse. However, let's say that we have a therapist who is dealing with a narcissist in their own lives, or their child is a narcissist, and then the person being treated, say they're a narcissist as well. Well, this could cause the person to become, defiant or sneaky with the therapist. The therapist then could react to that person in the same way that they would react to the narcissist in their own lives. Maybe they would become submissive or even allow the client to abuse them. On the flip side of that, of course, if the therapist is a narcissist and the person coming into the therapy session is a narcissistic supply or a victim of a narcissist, the therapist might react to the person just like they would react to their own narcissistic supply. Maybe they would become very controlling, or they would negate the person's feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and essentially reinforce the narcissistic abuse onto the individual. Another point might be if a therapist is a racist or a homophobic person, and they have someone of color or someone who is a homosexual in their care, they may treat that person with their own prejudices and therefore treat them worse than they might otherwise. There are different ways this can be managed, of course, but what's really important for you as someone who may be seeking therapy is that if you do suspect that you're dealing with harmful countertransference, you could bring it up in a session if it's safe to do that, because in some cases a therapist isn't going to recognize that it's happening, and they might really want to resolve the issue. But in many cases, it might just mean you need to change therapists because that person just might not be properly equipped to help you. So what are some signs of countertransference happening in therapy? Well, one thing that can happen is that your therapist might miss an appointment with you, or they don't show up and they don't let you know. They might have, be giving you mixed signals like a narcissist would. You might be dealing with a therapist who is in rescue mode sometimes, where they're going above and beyond the call of duty to advocate for you or to even move you out of house, things like that. You might find yourself dealing with a love relationship with your therapist, boundary problems. You might find yourself having a therapist who's angry at you because they don't feel like you appreciate them enough, or you might have a therapist blaming you and unable to see your point of view because they're acting like the narcissist. You might have a therapist who literally depends on you for certain things, or who creates a dependency by constantly solving your problems for you. Like if you, let's say, said to them, I just don't know how I'm going to buy groceries this week, instead of referring you to an appropriate agency, they might just write you a personal check. That's really, even though it's kind, it's not necessarily healthy. Drama reinforcement. So you might get pulled into, you might see your therapist being pulled into everyday drama in your life. They might need to know all the crazy details of all the things that aren't really related to treatment. They might get into your stories, or they might even tell you similar stories of their own to the point that it takes up most of your session. They might stop giving you your prescriptions in order to let you kind of slip back into your old ways, or they might even cut your time off, or cut your time off earlier, bill your insurance company for time you didn't show up, or whatever. The thing is, you have to keep your eyes open, and people who are in the field need to keep their eyes open, because it's exhausting to do this sort of work. And so therapists have to keep focused on their own well-being in this process. So this is one of the problems that I think we see with trying to get therapy in the traditional sense. Now, I could go into what a therapist or what a coach can do to resolve this issue here on this channel, which involves asking themselves certain questions and figuring out their own issues, right? And also, supervision from other therapists, things like that. But what it all comes down to is that that's not my audience. My audience is not a bunch of therapists and not a bunch of coaches. For the most part, my audience is the survivor of narcissistic abuse. And so what I will say to you in regard to this issue is that if you feel like you're dealing with a therapist who is giving you the countertransference vibe, and you feel like they're being too personally attacking, or attacking you personally, or if they are being too personally involved in your life, or God forbid, you're dealing with someone who is a narcissist therapist who is essentially negating you as a person, then you need to get out of there. You need to stop seeing that person immediately and start seeing someone else. If you think it's a case of an innocent mistake on the part of the therapist and everything's been fine until a recent incident maybe led them to be triggered by something with you, then you could try to talk to them. But I think that your own safety and personal well-being is going to be best served by finding a different therapist if this is the case. If you're still with me, what'd you think about all that? This brings me to the question of the day. And the question of the day is, have you experienced countertransference with your therapist in the past, and how did it manifest for you? Share your thoughts, your ideas, and your experiences in the comments section below. That's all I've got for you right now. As always, thanks so much for being a part of my day and a part of my life. And hey, thanks for letting me be a part of yours. It really does mean a lot to me. I'll see you soon. It's my mission to teach others what I know to be true. You really can create the life you want. Take care of your body, Take care of your soul, nurture the real you, and introduce him or her to the world. Be comfortable in your own skin and in your place in this world. Take your spot, take it now, and the universe will take its cue from you. You feel me? If so, subscribe to my channel. Let's get it done together.